Okay, welcome to Linux Hint YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about bash scripting. This video is gonna be a little bit longer than previous videos, but I promise you it is gonna be worth it. At the end of this video, if you watch this video till the end, I guarantee it that you will know about bash scripting more than a lot more people. Okay, so without a further ado, let's start. So these are the 22 specific topics that we have selected for you. So what I'm gonna do, that I'm going to select one topic, like number one topic, and then we're gonna do whatever the task that we have to perform. I'm going to explain to you first that what we will discuss in this topic, then we will discuss it, and then we move on to another topic, the next topic essentially. Okay, so let's start. First topic is hello bash scripting. So in this topic we are going to discuss what is bash scripting, and we are going to create a file in which we would write the script. Essentially we are going to print the hello bash scripting. We are going to allow the file to become executable. Okay, so these are the steps that we are going to perform in this topic. So without a further ado, let's get started. So we press Ctrl-Alt-T. Okay, this opens up our terminal. So what we're going to do here, we're going to write here cat/etc/shells. So what this command does is that when you press enter, it shows you all the shells available on your system, and you can simply use any of them. So our concern is only bash scripting. Okay, so we'll only select this, so we know that bash shell exists on our distribution. So in order to know the path of the bash, so you'll write here which bash, and we know /bin/bash is the path of the bash shell. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we are going to add this path in every script that we write which is related to bash. Okay, so we go to terminal. Okay, and let me just go to desktop, and we will create a file on desktop or a script. So right now if we ls here, we have nothing on our desktop. Our desktop is empty, as you can see from here as well. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we are going to create a script. So touch and then let's say hello script .sh. So we hit enter, and you can see that we have hello script here. Okay, so now if we open it up, this is hello script. So what we can do is that we are going to add that path, which is essentially /bin/bash, and now in here we are going to write a script. So we'll write here hello bash scripting. Okay, so bash basically stands for born again shell, and when you do that, it's very simple. So you save it, and now if you ls here, you can see that you have hello script.sh. So now if you go into the details, you can see that hello script.sh is not executable. So the owner can only read write, the other groups can only read, and the public can only read. So the executable permissions are not there, so we cannot really execute this script. So in order to make this script executable, what we have got to do, we have to write here chmod, and then we're gonna write here let me just clear it first. So we're gonna write here chmod, and then we're gonna +x, which is which will add the executable information or executable permissions. Then you're gonna write here file name, which is essentially the script, hello script.sh. Okay, so you hit enter. It doesn't give any error. So if we do again ls-al, so you can see that now this file has become executable as well, and the color of it has changed. Okay, so now we can basically execute this script, and we can see our result. So let's go ahead and let's try to execute our file. So in order to execute this file, you just simply have to put this dot and then slash, and then you can just simply write hello script.sh. You hit enter, and you can see that we have got the output, which is hello bash script. So if you want to change it, like hello bash Linux hint audience. So if we save this, if we come here again, if we try to run our script, you can see that this echo, the display text has changed. Okay, so now moving on to the next topic. So what is our next topic? Alright, moving on to the next topic, which is redirect to file. So what we are going to learn in this topic is that how we can actually capture the output and we can send it to the file. So from the shell, how we can send the output to a file. Basically, that's what we're going to learn in this topic. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to do that. So this is our script, hello script. And let's say that we want this output to go into some random file that we create. We press here the angle bracket and let's call this file.txt. So if we save this, we go back to our terminal and let me just clear it. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to run our script. So you can see that it has created this file. So if we go here, we can see that hello bash Linux and audience, the output of this file of this script has been stored in this file. Okay, so what else you can do? You can actually take the output from this shell and you can actually store that in the file as well. So now what we're gonna do that we will write here a script. Let's say we'll write here cat, and then we will write here the file name, which is essentially file.txt. Okay, so we save it and we go ahead and we try to run our script. So we hit enter and now you can see that it has become a sort of an editor. So whatever now we will write here on this shell, hi, this is a shell, this is Linux hint .com or channel of ours. So now what we're gonna do that if we want to come out of it, we have to press Ctrl D. Okay, so when we press Ctrl D, we come out of it. And if we go ahead and if we try to open this file, it says reload. So when we reload, you can see that it has the output, hi, this is the shell, this is linuxin.com or channel of ours. So this output that we were writing here is now displayed here in this file. Okay, so what it has done that it has basically replaced the old text. So there is another thing that you can do if you want that text not to be replaced but you want to append the text ahead of it. So what you can do, just put two angle brackets. So you press Ctrl S, you save it, and then you come here and then you try to run your script. So you hit enter and it says, you know, put some text. It has become an editor. So we'll write here, okay, another line of text. Okay, so we press Ctrl D, we come out of it, and now if we go back here, we open this file, you can see that it has basically added the text next to it. Okay, so now it has appended instead of replacing. Okay, so now let's discuss third topic, which is comments. So in this topic we are going to perform one line comments first. We're going to see that how we can do that, and then we are going to move on to creating multiple line comments as well. Okay, then after that we're going to see the here doc syntax, you know, as an additional thing. Okay, so now what we can do, we can go back to our script. So what a comment is basically that it has no value. So in the script, if you write a comment, you know, it does nothing. It just explains the code to the programmer. So for example, if I am a programmer and if I have written a code and I would add comments into that code, because let's say if I have left the company or if I'm not there, then the other programmers could actually take a look at the code and they could understand that what that code exactly is doing. So That's why comments are essential. So for example, if I write here hash and then I write here this is a cat command, so it would have no effect on the code, okay? But what it is telling that this is a cat command. So this is a simple comment. So if I uncomment this and if I save this and if I come here and if I try to run my script, which is hello, so you can see that it is giving an error. Okay, so on line 3 there is an error. So if I just write here hash, now it is a comment, it has no value. So if I go back here and if I try to run my script, you can see that I can actually work with my script quite well. Okay, so now this it would add this thing to the file.txt, okay. So this is a one-line comment. So what if like you have like, let's say 500 lines of code? How are you gonna do that? So you cannot actually put hash against every single line. That is gonna take a very long time. So for example, let's say we have like 10, okay, like this. So how you can actually make all of these lines invisible or of no value? By commenting them. How you can comment all at once? So this thing we call it as multi-line commenting. So how would you do that? You would come here, you would put a colon here, you would put a space, after a colon you put a single quote here, and then you put a single quote here as well. So now all of it has been commented, and if I save it and if I go back, if I run my script, so you can see that there is these lines have no value, all of them have been commented. Okay, so that was basically multi-line comments. Okay, so now let's discuss the here doc syntax. So here doc is basically I would say it is basically a phenomena that actually helps you interact with the shell. So for example, whatever we're going to write here inside our script, it is going to be visible on our output. Okay, so let's try to do that. So for example, let's say we have a cat command. So in here doc, we're not gonna write angle bracket this way but this way. Okay, and here we would have here doc delimiter. Okay, so the here doc delimiter would be like, it could be anything. It could be hello world, it could be, it is similar to the variable name. Okay, so let's call it a here doc text. Okay, so basically what it is, that it is a here doc delimiter. So let me name it new, something like creative. So let's call it creative. Okay, so what it is, that it is a here doc delimiter and it could be anything. So now in here you can add any text, like this is hello creative text. Okay, so I can add another line, add another line. So now I would write here creative to end the here doc delimiter. Okay, so now if I save it, I go back, I try to run my script, you can see that it is basically showing this is hello creative text, add another line. So this was basically the concept of here doc. So for example, if you have any like sort of comments, and if you also want to show those comments on the output, you can use this here doc delimiter. All right, and this is here doc delimiter, and it could be anything, like anywhere. It is similar to like the variable name. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. You have understood. Okay, so now let's come to our next topic, which is conditional statements. So in this topic we are going to discuss if statements, if else statements, if else if statements, and the conditional statements of and operators, and the conditional statements of or operators as well. Finally, we will take a look at the case statement as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to run all these conditional statements, and let's see what are the results that we get. Okay, so we'll go to our script, and inside our script we have this code. We'll remove it. Okay, so now we are going to write here the if statement. So before if, let's declare a variable named as, let's say, count and then 10. Okay, this is the value. So if we write here if, and then in order to write a condition, you have to have these big brackets, and always remember to keep one space from both of the sides. Okay, otherwise it would give some sort of weird error. So you can write here equal, and then you can write here 10. So obviously we know that this statement is true. So we'd write here then, and then we'd write here echo. So echo, let's say the condition is true. So for those of you who are not programmers or who do not understand the if statements, I'm going to explain to you in deep. Okay, so let's see what this thing will do. So count is a variable, it has a value of 10. So what happens is that inside this if condition, it checks if the count is equal to 10. Okay, so obviously the count is equal to 10, so this condition is true. So if that condition is true, only in that case it would execute this block which is after then. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So now if we just save it, if we go back to our terminal and if we try to run our script, you can see that it says the condition is true. So let's try to change this. Let's say let's make it false on purpose, so equal 9. If we save it, if we try to run our script again, you can see that it does not give any output, and the reason is that we do not have an else block, right? The if statement, the condition, the cursor, the program doesn't know what to do if the condition is false. So for that we have this thing right here, else block, and in else block you can write the condition is false. Okay, so the idea is that now what would happen, that it would execute the else block because if block wasn't true. So now you can see that it is showing here the condition is false. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So there are other things that you can do, but before that let me explain to you again. So count is equal to 10, so count is not equal to 9 because count is 10 here. So obviously 10 is not equal to 9, so this block cannot be executed at any cost because this if condition is not true. So what it will do, that it will skip this block and it will come here, and if it will basically print out this else block. Okay, so you can actually check here not equal to as well, which is NE. Okay, so NE stands for not equal. So obviously this condition is going to be true now because we have 9. So obviously 9 is not equal to 10. Another thing that you can do is that you can write here GT, which stands for greater than, and obviously if you will go ahead, if you'll run your script, this would say the condition is true because 10 is greater than 9. Okay, so you can use angle brackets as well. So if you want to use an angle bracket like this, so count is greater than 9. So what you've got to do, that you have to just replace these big brackets with these brackets, okay, small brackets. Alright, so now if I save this, obviously we know that 10 is greater than 9, so the condition is gonna be true. Okay, so the condition is true. Let's try to make it false. So if we change the angle bracket, if we save it, if we go back, if we try to run our script, now you can see that it says the condition is false. Okay, so obviously 10 cannot be less than 9. Alright, so you can also have if else if statements as well. Okay, so how you can work with them, let me show you. Let's say that we want to put another check. So how would we do? We would write here else if, and let me just have an else block here. Then we'd write here then, and then we write here echo, and let's say the condition is true, and in here we put a condition like count is less than or equal to, let's say, 9. Okay, so we know that this condition is not true, right? So what would happen that the cursor would come, it would check, obviously 10 is not less than 9, it would skip this, and it would come again here, and obviously the 10 is not less than 9, and it is, you know, it is neither less than 9 nor equal to 9 obviously, so this block will be skipped as well, and then it will only execute this thing here, echo is equal to the condition is false obviously. Okay, so I hope you have got the point here. So now we'll press Ctrl S and we'll go here and we'll see what we can do with this. So if we run the script, you can see that the condition is false. So let's say if we write here greater than 9. Okay, so now what would happen, let me write here second condition is true. Let me write here first condition is true. So now if we save it, let me just save it, and if we go back and let me clear it, if we run our script, you can see that it says second condition is true. Okay, so that's how you can work with else if as well. So till now we have discussed if statement, we have discussed if else statements, and we have also discussed if else if statements as well. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So now let's move on and let's try to discuss AND operator. So how can we work with the AND operator? So that's pretty simple as well. So let me just remove all of that. Count, let's make it as, let's say, age. So age is equal to 10, let's say, and we write here an if condition if the age is, let's say, let me write here double quotes and then the, you know, variable name, which is essentially age. Let's say if age is greater than 18, and then we'll write here double quotes and we'd write here age, and then we'd write here less than, and then we'd write here 40. So what this condition would do, it would check if the age is greater than 18, and if it is less than 40, only then it would execute whatever is inside the if block. So we'd write here echo age is correct. Okay, so else we'd say echo age is not correct. Okay, then we'll close the if block or the if statement. So right now we know our age is 10, so obviously this statement will not be correct, because in order to execute this block, both of these conditions have to be true. Okay, so if that condition alone is true and that is not true, then obviously this block is not going to be executed. So at the same time, simultaneously, these two conditions have to be true. Okay, so right now we know that none of the condition is true, so obviously it is going to execute this one, age is not correct. So we press Ctrl S, we go ahead, we try to run our script. So now you can see that it is giving some sort of error at line 5. So let's see what the error is. So I think the error is that we have not given space here. So okay, so that's what I was talking about previously. So now let's go ahead, let's try to execute our script. So you can see that it says age is not correct because both of the conditions are not true. So let's try to make one condition true, but let's try to make another condition false. So logically, let's say we say age is less than, let's say 15. Okay, so now automatically, obviously age is less than 15. This condition is true, but this is not true. Okay, this is false, age is not greater than 18. So again, it would not execute this one, it would execute this one. Okay, so if we Control S here, we go ahead, we try to run our script, we hit enter, you can see that it says age is not correct. So again, it has not executed this block, it has executed this block rather, and obviously this condition is true, but this condition is not true, so both of the conditions have to be true. So now let's write here greater than less than, and let's do it 40, and let's change it to, let's say, 30. Okay, so now what would happen, that age is greater than 18, yes, it is true. Age is less than 40, yes, it is true as well. So what's going to happen, that this thing is going to be executed. It would say age is correct. Okay, so we press Ctrl S, we save it, we go back to our terminal, and we try to run our script, and if we hit enter, it says age is correct. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So now what we're gonna do is that we can actually do something like this. So if we just remove this, these brackets from here, and if we put double brackets, then it would give us the same result. Okay, so that is just another way to do the same thing. Okay, that is just a difference in syntax. So if we run our script, we would get the same result. Okay, so there is another way that you can do. If you just write here -a or -a with single brackets, then it would work as well. So if we press Ctrl S, we go back, we try to run our script, you can see that it has not changed. It is giving us the same result. So these are basically three syntax to write down the AND command, okay, or the AND operator, and work with it. Alright, so I hope you have got the point, you have learned something new regarding this. So now let's move on to the OR operator. So let's keep everything same. So OR operator is basically, if you write here OR O, so it means that one of the two statements have to be true, like either it has to be true or it has to be true in order to execute this block. So this is -O. It is being used for the OR operator. So now the age is 30. Both of conditions are true. So obviously this block will execute. So let's go ahead and let's try. You can see that it says age is correct. So now let's make one of them false. So let's say we made this false intentionally. So now you can see that obviously this block is this statement, this condition is false and this condition is true, but still it would execute it because one condition is true. Okay, so OR means only one. Okay, this one or this one. So we press Ctrl S, we go back, we try to run our script again, and you can see that it says age is correct. So the only way this is gonna be false is that both of them are false. Okay, so let's make it something like this, -GT. It means that age is greater than 40 and age is less than 18. So obviously both of the statements are not correct now. So we press Ctrl S, we go back to our terminal, and if we try to run our script, you can see that it says age is not correct because both of the conditions are false now. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. And similarly you can actually write the OR operator like this by writing here double pipes, okay, pipe sign, and then you have to write here double brackets as well. So if you now press Ctrl S, and if you go back, if you try to run your script, you would see it would give the same result. Okay, so that is just a different syntax. So you can also do something like this and like this, it would work the same way. Okay, so these are basically three different syntax for OR statement as well. So if we go back, if we try to run our script, you can see that we have got the same results. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So till now we have learned regarding to the conditional topics. We have learned if statements, if else statements, if else if statements, the AND statements or the AND operator, and the OR operator as well. Okay, so now moving on to the next point, we are going to discuss case statement. So case statement is not very different from the if statement. So you can call the case statements as multiple if statements as well. So if the same thing that you can do with the case statement, you can also do it with the if else statements, multiple if else statements as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead, let's take an example of car. So we'll write here case, and we'll write here car, which is a variable. we write here car equals, let's say, dollar. So the next topic, it's about loops. All right. So in this topic, we would discuss while loops, we would discuss until loops, we would discuss for loops, and we would also discuss break and continue statements. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's start. So we'll go back to our script, and for now, let's just remove all of it. We don't need it. And right here the while loop. Okay, so we'll write here while, and right here we'll write any condition. Let's say, first of all, let us declare a variable. Let's say number, okay, equals, let's call it, let's say 1, and we write here a statement. Let's say number, let's say less than or equal to or less than 10, and in here we write do, we write here echo. So the idea is that the syntax of the while loop is something like this: while, and then you write here condition, and then you write here do, and then you write here all the statements that you're gonna write, and then you write here done, okay, at the end. So let me write here done. Okay, so inside of that, this right here, between do and done, you'd write all the statements that you want to execute. Okay, so now let's say we write here we want to execute, and now we want to increment the n, the number. It's actually number here, right? So we'd write here number equals, then we write here $sign, then we write here double brackets or double parentheses, and we'll increment n+1. Okay, so now I'll explain to you what's happening here. So first of all, we have a variable number, which it has a value 1, and 1 comes here. 1 is obviously less than 10, so it would go ahead and it would print it out 1, and then it would basically add inside number, okay, number plus 1. So it would 1 plus 1, it would be 2, so it would come back here. Now the number is 2, so 2 is less than 10. It would come here again, it would check, it would print it out here, and then it would increment it again. So now 2 plus 1 is 3, so it comes back here. Now it checks again, 3 is less than 10, and then it basically repeats the cycle. Okay, so if we save it, if we go back to our terminal, and if we try to run our script, hello script.sh, you can see that it basically prints out the values till 9. 10 it has not printed out, because when it was 9 was printed out, then it has incremented it. It incremented it like 9 plus 1, 10. It goes back here, 10 is not less than 10. Okay, that is false. So basically it doesn't execute anything. Okay, and it comes out of the while loop automatically. So now if we do something like less than or equal to, so now this condition would be true, because 10 could be equal to 10. Alright, so now you can see that it has basically printed out 10 as well. Okay, so that was basically while loops. So you can basically make it as complicated as you can, but that was basically the simplest introduction of while loop. So now let's go ahead and let's try to do the same thing with the until loop. So until loops are almost the same. For until loop, we will just write here until, and obviously we'll write here, so until is, it's basically that greater than or equal to. So until will run until this statement is until it becomes true. Okay, so now when the one is greater than or equal to 10, obviously it is not, it is false. So this loop will run until this condition is false. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. In the while loop was running until this condition was true. Okay, but until loop will run until this condition becomes true. Alright, so I hope you've got the point. So now obviously we know that this until loop is gonna run until the value becomes 10. Okay, so then 10 will be greater than or equal to 10. That condition would be true, so it would break and it would come out of the loop. Okay, so we save it and we go back here to our terminal and we try to run, and we write here, and you can see that until loop has run, and it has printed out the values 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 till 9. Okay, it has not printed out 10 because when 10 came here, it basically, you know, it became false. Okay, so sorry, it became true, and the until condition or the until loop became false, and it, you know, came out of the loop. Okay, so I'm explaining to you again. So the idea is that this number 1 here, it comes here, so 1 is greater than or equal to 10. This condition is false. Okay, right? So if you write here while, this loop will break right away. Okay, because this condition is false, so it would not print anything. But in this case, this condition is false, and we have until loop here. So until loop will run until this condition would become true. Okay, so as long as the condition is false, the until loop will keep on running. Alright, so I hope you have got the point. So moving on to the next loop, which is like for loop. Okay, so we have done while loop and we have done until loop. So now we'll focus on we'll focus on for loop. Okay, so for loop, you know, basically we can write for loop in two fundamental ways in bash scripting. So I is basically, you know, you conventionally name the variable I, and then you write here in, and then you can write here 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so then you write here do, and then you write here echo, and then you print out basically I, and done here. So basically I is gonna be printing out like 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we go here, we clear it, and we run our script, and you can see that it has printed out 1 2 3 4 5. So you can say that you cannot write actually till 100. Yes, that's right, we cannot write that. So for that we have an alternative. What we would do, that we'd write here 0, would go we would put double dots here, would write here 10, let's say 20. So we'll save it, and now if we run our script, let me just clear it first. If we run our script, now you can see that basically it has printed out from 0 to 20. Okay, all of that. So now we can actually make a change here as well. So if we do that, basically what it means, that the first one is basically starting point, then we have the ending point, ending, and then we have the increment. Okay, so now it would print out all of that with the increment of 2. Okay, so for like 0, then it would print out 2, and then so on and so forth. So let's save it. Let me actually delete that because it would give an error because it isn't a comment as well. So we save it, and we go back here, we clear it, we try to run our script, and you can see that it has basically printed out everything with the increment of 2. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So that is basically one way of writing for loop. There's another way of writing for loop which is conventional across, you know, all programming languages. This is a very famous way of writing for loop. So you do something like this. You put on double brackets, and then you write the variable name, you initialize it with 0, and then you write here I, then you write here a condition, let's say 5, and then you basically increment it. Okay, I plus plus. Okay, then basically you it stays the same, echo I, and then done. Obviously what it would do, it would print out from 0 to 4. Okay, if the condition would have been I less than equal to 5, then it would have printed out 5 as well. So now let's save it, let's go ahead and let's see what happens. So now you can see that it has printed out from 0 to 4. Okay, so that was basically a while loop, until loop, and for loop. Now let's move on and let's discuss the break and continue statement. So let's use this same example. So we write here, let's say I is less than equal to, let's say 10. Okay, so then we add a condition here. Let's say we write here if, and then we write here, you know, $I, and then obviously we write here greater than, and then let's say 5. Okay, and then we write here then, and then we write here break, like this. Okay, and then we write here fi, which basically closes the if statement. So what's gonna happen is that it is gonna first of all, the for loop is going to be executed. Okay, and then inside the for loop there is an if statement. So this if statement is going to check that if I is greater than 5 or not. Okay, so obviously I, first of all, I is gonna be 0, so that condition is false, so it would basically not execute, it would not execute this block, it would just go ahead and it would execute this one here. Then it would come back, it would increment it, and it would start to increment it until it reaches 5. Okay, so what would happen, this condition would become false. 5 is not greater than 5, 5 is equal to 5, right? And finally, when this I would become 6, it would come here, 6 is greater than 5. Yes, this if condition is now true, so it would execute this one. So it would basically break, it would execute the break statement. So what this break statement would do, that it would break this loop, okay, and it would come out of the loop. So the loop increment would stop and the loop execution would stop, and the program would come out of the for loop. It would break the for loop. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's go ahead and let's save it, and let's try to run our program or our script. So we write here, you know, hello script, and we hit enter. You can see that it has printed out till 5, but as soon as it has I has become 6, it has basically, you know, this condition is true, and the break statement was executed, and it has broken out of the for loop. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So now let's discuss the continue statement. So let's go ahead and let's try to write here if, and then we would write here I, and then we'd write here eq, and then we'd write here 3, and then let's say we write here double pipe sign. Okay, and then let's say we write here, you know, $I, then we write here equal, let's say 7. Okay, so then we write here then, and then we write here inside of that continue. Okay, so now we save it. So what's gonna happen is that it is going to print out everything, but it is going to skip 3 and 7. So basically when the condition is gonna become true, either one of them, this thing is going to execute. Okay, so let's say when the i's value has become 3, this condition was true, so the continue was executed. So continue basically takes you out of the loop. Okay, it doesn't execute whatever is, you know, whatever is here, it takes you out, and then it comes back and it starts to this execute the loop again. Okay, so the break statements, it comes out and it basically breaks the loop. Okay, it goes here and it goes back. Okay, so you can say that basically continue thing, it goes back from here. Okay, the break statement, it comes here first and then it stays here. Okay, the continue statement, it basically goes back right here. All right. Okay, so when the i's value would become 3, obviously this would be true, and it would execute the continue statement. So what continue statement does, it doesn't go ahead, it goes back here. So the break statement was actually breaking the loop and going out of the loop, but the continue statement, it goes back here. Okay, so when the value would become 3, it would go back here, and similarly when the value would become 7, it would go back here again, okay, after executing the continue statement. So for all other values, for example, for 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 and 8, 9, 10, it would be false, the if condition, so it would not execute the continue statement, so it would echo all of them. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So we'll go ahead and we'll press Ctrl S, we'll save it. So now let's try to run our script. So you can see that it has basically printed out from 0 to 10 except 3 and 7. Okay, so I hope you've got the point about break and continue statement. You have understand while loop, for loops and until loop as well. So now let's move ahead to the next topic. Okay, so the next topic is script input. So inside this topic we'd see that how do we deal with $1, $2, $3, the inputs that we give to the scripts, and also we'll discuss about the $hash and $at, and we'll also see that how we can give an input as a file and how we can read that file using stdin. Okay, so let's start with this topic. So we'll go back to our script, and what we would do is that we'd just simply write here echo, and then we'd write here $1, $2, $3, let's say. So what this program or what this script would do, that when we would run our script, what would happen is that let me just go to our desktop first, okay, because desktop is the place where our script resides. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna run our script, and the first argument that we're gonna give here, let's say we give the car company names. So we'd write here BMW, Mercedes, Toyota. Okay, so right now this input represents $1, this input represents $2, and this input represents $3. Okay, so now if we would hit enter, you can see that we have got these three things on the output. Okay, so we have given these three things as input, and inside the script we have printed them out, so obviously we have them on output. So what if you just do a little addition here, like let's say $0. So what would happen is that now this file name, this script name will also be printed out, because we are giving it as on the 0th argument. So let's go ahead, let's try to run our script, and let's say we type the car names again. Now let's try to change it, Honda, Toyota. So we hit enter, and you can see that because of $0, the 0th argument, the script name has been printed out, and because of $1, the BMW has been printed out, and because of the $2, Honda has been printed out, and because of $3, Toyota has been printed out. So there is another thing that you could do, and that is basically that you can take all the arguments in the form of an array, and then you can actually print them out. So let's say we go here and just remove this. So now what we would do, we would create an array, and obviously we do not know that how many number of inputs are gonna be there. So what we're gonna do, we will just write here at, and before at we'd write here $sign. Okay, so this represents the unlimited number of like inputs, so you can type in like 50 inputs. Okay, that's no problem. But if we would specify like 3 here, then we can only give 3 inputs. Okay, so we don't want that. We are trying to get array, and we would take unlimited inputs. So what we would do now, we'd print out the each and every index of the array. So now what we would do, would write here echo $sign, and then inside of that the name of the array, which is args, and then the index number. Okay, so now we will simply copy and paste this thing from here. Let's do this. Okay, 0, 1, and let's do it 2. So let's see if it works out. So now we would go here, would try to run our script again. Let me clear it. So would write here hello script.sh, and then we'd give the arguments. Let's say we gave 3 inputs: BMW, Honda, Mercedes. So now if we hit enter, you can see that we have got 3 outputs. Okay, BMW, Honda, Mercedes. So now what has happened is that in the array, this BMW, which was like $1 here, now it has been assigned 0th index in the array. As if you're familiar with the programming, we are going to discuss arrays, ahead. So if you don't know about arrays, don't worry, because it's coming. So the idea is, for now, just remember that the arrays always start from 0th index. Okay, so the first value that you're gonna give to the array, it's gonna be stored inside the 0th index of array. So right now you can see that the 0th index of the array has this first value. Okay, and the second value that we are giving, the input, it's been assigned to the first index, the 1 index, which is actually the second index of the array. Okay, then the index number 2, which is actually the third index, it contains the value Mercedes, the third input that we are giving. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So if you want to print out all the array, there is another way to do that, and that is basically, now I have commented this line, so it has no effect, it has no impact on the script. So if you want to print out like all the array, like how many no matter how many inputs you give, they're all going to be printed out. Okay, so now if we save this, if we go back here, we write here hello script, then we write here BMW, Honda, Mercedes, let's type Toyota as an addition. If we hit enter, you can see that all 4 inputs have been printed out because the array was there. So array has taken all 4 inputs, and then because of this $@, because of this, it has printed out all the values that it has taken. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So if you want to know that how many indexes are there, so in order to do that, in order to measure the length of the array, we have echo and dollar and the hash sign. Okay, so if you write here something like this $hash, and if you echo it, then what it would do, that it would print out the length of the array. So if we do something like this, hello, and then we will write here BMW, Honda, and Toyota. If we hit enter, you can see that it has basically printed out the length of the array, which is essentially 3. All right, so that was the arguments that we have played with. So that was all about input. So what we can do is that we can also read the file as well using stdin. Okay, so let's try to do that. Let's write that code. So first of all, we're gonna write a while loop because we are going to read the file line by line. Okay, so I'm gonna show you that if you don't select any file, then the program would actually just work in a complete different way. So it would create the shell, it would assume the shell as a file, and whatever you would write, it would simply print that out. Okay, so now we'd write here while, and then we'd write here read, and then we'd write here line, and we write here do, and then we'll write here echo, and then we are just going to print out line. Okay, and then basically we're gonna close the while loop, but here we're gonna do an addition. So we are just going to write here something like this: $1 would be basically it would basically be the input that we would give as the file name. Okay, so $1, and then we'd write here something like this, and then we'll give the path of the stdin because we are using stdin to read the file. Okay, so that's it. So now if we save it and we go ahead and we try to run our script, so let me just clear it. So first of all, let's say if we don't give any file, like right now $1 would be the first argument here, but let's say we don't give any file name. Okay, if we hit enter, so now you can see that it has basically created the terminal as a file. So whatever I would write here, this is a file. If I hit enter, you can see that it has basically printed that out. So now no matter what I would write, it would basically print that out, okay? Because I have not given an argument, and because of stdin, it has assumed that the terminal is a file, okay? So it would take the input and then it would print out the output, assuming that it's coming from the file, but that's not the case. So press Ctrl Z, break that and come out, and now we'd give the argument. So let's say I have this file on desktop, untitled document1, which has all the topics. So let's try to give the name of this file now as an argument. So $1. So I would write here untitled document1, and these slashes are here because we want it to assume one file, okay? So because of these spaces inside, it would assume them as 3 files, 3 arguments, but we just want all these 3 words to be assumed as a single argument, okay? So now if we hit enter, you can see that it has basically read the file, and after reading the file, it has basically printed all the stuff out, okay? So that's how you basically read the file using stdin, okay? So now let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so the next topic that we are going to discuss is script output. So in the script output, like, we are going to discuss the standard output and the standard error, okay? These two things. So in the previous topic, we have discussed standard input, all right? So the idea is that the standard output is something like this. Let me show you. ls -al. If we do that, so this is basically our standard output. So what if we want to redirect this standard output to a file? Of course we can do it, and I'll show you in a while. So let's say the standard error. So if we do something like this, ls +al, so this is basically the standard error, okay? So what's going to happen is that we are going to write a script in which we are basically just going to redirect the standard output and the standard error to two fundamental basic files, okay? So we can do that in the same file as well. I'll also show you that. So we're going to write here ls -al, and then we're going to write here 1, and then we're going to write here the file name, let's say file1.txt, and then we write here 2, and then we write here file2.txt. So basically this one represents the standard output, and it will send the standard output to the file1.txt, and similarly this 2 represents the standard error, and it will send the error to the file2.txt. So right now we know that the command is right, so there would be standard output and there would be no standard error. So it would send the standard output in this file, and this file would be created, but of course there would be no standard error, so this file would be empty, okay? So we'd save it, we'd go ahead and we try to run our script. So we hit enter, and you can see that 2 files have been created. So if we go to file 1, you can see that this is our standard output that we have redirected to the file successfully. And if we go to this file 2, you can see that it's empty because there is no error, but our standard error will be redirected to here, okay? So let's try to make a mistake. Let's try to create the standard error. So now let's see what happens. So if we go here and if we run the script, now if we come back to file 1, if we reload, you can see that there is nothing, okay? So if we go to file 2, if we reload, you can see that there is the standard error, okay? So standard output file is empty, standard error file has something in it, which is an error essentially, okay? So I hope you've got the point. You can also basically transfer the standard output to one file. So basically, let's say if we delete these 2 files, and let's say that if we just write something like this, if we do not specify anything, like, you know, if we just write something like this, so what's going to happen, that this is going to automatically assume that this file is the standard output file, okay? So if we save this, and if we try to run our script like something like this, you can see that it has created the file 1 and it has the standard output inside of it. So now let's try to do the error, and let's see if it assume it as a standard error file as well. So we go ahead and we do something like this, and you can see that it has basically not created this file as the standard error file. Okay, rather what it has done, that it has given the error, the standard error on the terminal. So you can also create one file for the standard output and standard error as well. So the way to do that is something like this. So you would write do, and then you would write this ampersand sign and then 1. Okay, so now basically this file will be used for both, okay, standard output and standard input. So now the command is correct. So if we run the script, so and if we go to file 1, you can see that reload, we have this standard output here. But if we try to go to our script, and if we make an error here, let's say something like this, now if we run our script, and if we go back to file1.txt, it says reload, and now you can see that it has basically displayed the standard error in the same file. Okay, so there is a shortcut to do that. Like, you know, let's say if you don't want to write this thing right here, so what you can do is that you can also just write here ampersand sign, and it will do the work. So now basically what has happened, that it would redirect the standard output and standard error to the same file as well. So basically that is just simply a shortcut. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's try to run our script, and you can see, and if we go to file1.txt, you can see that we have the standard output. If we try to make a mistake, we do plus, and if we try to run our script again, now you can see again in the file1 we have got the standard error. Okay, so the next topic that we're going to discuss is pipes. So I put pipes here because so what we're going to do, that we're not going to discuss pipes, but we're going to teach you, let's name it as send output from one script to another. Okay, from one script to another, okay, to another script. All right, so basically I have figured out an easy way to do it. So with pipes, basically you transfer your one command output to another command. Okay, so but if you want to transfer your whole script to another script, there is a simpler way that I have figured it out. So let's go ahead and let's try to do it. So we'd go to our script. Let me close that. So in here we are going to write, let's say this is our first script. Okay, so this is hello script.sh, and inside of that we write something like, let's say message. We create a variable, and then we write here hello Linux hint audience. Okay, so now what I do, that I basically export this message to another script that I'm gonna create. I have not created that script yet, but I'll create that. So I'll name it as, let's say, second script. Okay, .sh. So now what would happen is that basically this message variable, it contains hello Linux and audience, and I would export it to the second script, okay, which I would create. So now I would go here, let me just create a text file quickly. I'll basically write here /bin/bash, and I would save it as a .sh file. So I would basically name it second script.sh. So now basically I have created the bash file, but there's one problem, that it is not executable. If we go here, do something like this, you can see that this second script.sh is not executable. So what we've got to do, we have to make it executable, as we have made this hello script.sh executable. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna write here schmod, and then we're gonna write here +x, which would add executable permissions, excuse me, and then we're gonna write here the file name, which is essentially second script, because that's where we want to make changes, right? So now if we clear it, if we LSA negative AL, you can see that it has turned green, so it means that it is now executable. So now inside of that, basically I have I have exported the variable message to this script. So now inside of that, I'm just gonna echo, I'm gonna write here the message from hello script. Oh, let me just write here hello script is, and then basically I write here the variable name, which is essentially message. Okay, so now I save it. Both of these scripts have been saved. So now if I go ahead, and you can see that in this script there is no such thing as the echo message. The echo message is here. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run this hello script. Okay, and let's see what happens. So I run this hello script, and you can see that it says the message from hello script is, and then hello Linux int audience. So basically what is happening, that we are sending this from one script to another. Okay, so that's how you basically do it. All right, so I hope you've got the point. So now let's go ahead and let's try to do a few things. So in string processing, let's do something like, let's compare the strings, and let's see if we can do it. And then let's see if we can actually compare if they are equal, and if they are less, or if they are more, like greater than each other or smaller than each other. So let's try that, and then we'll concatenate, and then we can actually convert it to the uppercase and the lowercase. Yeah, things like that. So let's go ahead and let's try to do it. Okay, so first of all, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually take the input from the user. Like obviously I would give the input, so we could do something like this: enter first string, and then we can actually read it, read st1, and then we could actually, yes, we could actually do something like enter second string, and then we could actually name it as read st2, and then we can actually write here the if condition, which would actually do what, which would actually compare the string st1 with st2. So if the string is like the same, then in that case it is actually going to print out something like this. So we write here then echo strings match, or both strings match. Okay, in fact I think that is enough, strings match. And then we write here else, we write here echo, and then we write here strings don't match. Okay, so we write here fi, which basically ends the if statement, right? So now let's go ahead, let's save it, and let's try to run our script by going back to the terminal. Okay, we don't have terminal, so Control Alt T, and obviously we'd go to our desktop where our script resides, and then we try to run our script. It says enter first string, so let's say I enter Linux hint, and it says second string, let's say I enter something else like ABC. You can see that it says strings don't match, right? Because it has tried to compare it, and they didn't match. So now let's try to do something like this again. Let's try to run our script again. Hello, yes, and then let's put in Linux hint again, Linux hint. So now you can see that it says strings match. So now in order to make sure that basically it isn't comparing the lengths, so what we can do, we can write here ABC, and then let's do it like ACB. Okay, now the length is same. Now let's see it, you can see that it says strings don't match. So it means that it is not actually matching the length, it is actually matching the actual order of the strings. Okay, so the next thing that we can do is that we can actually check if the string is smaller than the other string. Like if we have written down here string, Linux hint, and we have written here ABC, then obviously first string is it's greater. So let's see how we can check that. So that was basically the comparison for that. Now let's try to write down a complete new condition. So we'd write here something like this, okay, and then we'd write here then, obviously, and then we'd write here echo, and obviously you can see here the sign shows that the A string is smaller, right? That condition is going to be true when the string 1, the first string, is going to be smaller than the string 2. So we'd write here that $st1 is smaller than, or st1 is smaller than $st2, okay, and then we're gonna write here else if, okay, and inside the else if we are just going to reverse the order, okay. So let me just copy this from here, the condition, and then we come back here, we paste it, and we just reverse the angle bracket, okay, and then we write here echo, we write here st2 is smaller than st1, okay. So you can write here st1 is greater than st2, whatever you want. It is personal preference, okay. So I just have written here st2 is smaller. So now we write else statement. If none of them happens, then it means that the strings are equal, okay. So just write here both strings are equal, like this. I forgot to write here then, okay. So don't make these small mistakes. So we'll clear it, and then we try to run our script. So we'll write here Linux hint, and then we'll write here AS. We hit enter, you can see that it says AS is smaller than Linux hint. Okay, so now we come here and we try to run our program again. So now let's say if I write here Linux hint and then I write here lin, you can see that it says lin is smaller than Linux hint, okay. So now we do the opposite, okay. So we'd let's say we write here ABC, and then in the second string, let's say we write here let's say again Linux hint. So you can see that it says ABC is smaller than Linux hint, okay. So I hope you've got the idea. So now if we enter the same string, like let's say ABC, you can see that it says both strings are equal, okay. So now when we come to the concatenation, we can also do that. So we just remove it, and in here what we're gonna do if we want to concatenate, so we'd write here C, which would be another variable, then we would basically write here st1 and then st2, okay, with the $sign, and then we want to print out the concatenation, we just write here echo $C, okay. So now let's go ahead and let's try to run our script. So the first string, let's say Linux hint, and then the enter second string, let's say hello. So if we hit enter, you can see that it says Linux hint hello. So basically it has concatenated these two strings, okay. So I hope you've got the point. So now let's try to turn them into the uppercase and lowercase, okay. So let's see, let's say that if we get the input from st1 as, let's say, in smaller letters, then what we're gonna do is something like this, that we're gonna write here the $sign, and then we're gonna write here st1, and then we're just going to write here something like this, okay, and then we're gonna write here twice, okay, for uppercase. All right, so let's try to do this. Let's do st1 as lowercase and st2 as uppercase, or let me just do that once, okay, for st1 in both cases. So okay, Control S, and now we come back here, we try to run our script. So we give a value here, let's say Linux hint, and let's say A. We hit enter, and you can see that basically it has printed out st1 in the lowercase first, okay, and then it has printed out st1 in the uppercase because of these two signs. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. If you want to turn the first letter into capital, so what you've got to do is that you have to actually mention the letter. Let's say we are going to enter Linux hint, so we'll mention the letter L here, and now if we save it and if we go back, if we try to run our program, or if we try to run our script, we're going to write here, let's say Linux hint, it's in small. So you can see that it has basically it has capitalized the first letter, which is L. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So now we'll move on to the next topic. Okay, so the next topic that we are going to discuss is numbers and arithmetics. Okay, so in this topic, what we're gonna do, that we're gonna show you that how you can perform different arithmetic operations, and we're also gonna show you that how you can actually convert hexadecimal number to a decimal number, and let's see how we can do it, how we can actually add different numbers and how we can do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me just clear it first. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to write code here. So if I do something like this, if I do like echo 21 or 31 plus 21, if I save it and if I go back here and if I try to run my script, you can see that it has printed out 31 plus 21. It has not basically added both of these values. Okay, so in order to add them, there is a different there are two fundamental techniques that you can perform in order to add them. So first of all, let's say we create two variables like n1 is equal to 4 and we create n2 is equal to 20, let's say. Okay, so now let's say if we want to add them, we have to do something like this: echo, and then we write here $, and then we write double parenthesis, then we give a space, and then we write here n1 plus n2. Okay, and if we save it and if we try to run our script now, okay, you can see that it has given a result 24. It has basically added these two values, right? So what we can do here is that we can perform the arithmetic operations, all sorts of arithmetic operations in this way. Okay, so division, okay, we can subtract it, okay, we can actually multiply it, we can divide it, and actually we can have the remainder of it. Okay, so we save it, we go ahead and we try to run our script. So if we run our script, so now you can see that here we have the output 24 minus 16, 80, 0 and 4. So if we divide it, so the answer goes into something like, you know, 0 point something. Okay, so basically it is not showing the output in the floats, it is showing in the integer rather. Okay, so that's why it's 0. And you can see that it has basically subtracted it, it has added it, it has multiplied it as well, and it has given you the remainder as well. Okay, so there is another way to perform the same operations, and that way is something like this. So let me show you that as well. So you can basically use Expr. So you can use Expr expression as well. So what you can do, you can write here Expr, and then you can remove this one parenthesis, and you're good to go. But you just have to write here the $, to actually create it as a different variable. Okay, so $n1 is not and n2 are not actually considered by this $sign now, because it is now associated with the Expr. So now after writing Expr, you have to write $sign here and here as well. Let me just write here. So now if we save it and if we go back, if we try to run our script, you can see that it gives us the same result. Okay, so now we'd perform the same functions for, you know, like subtraction, multiplication, and division and remainder. Okay, so we write here multiplication, and then we write here division, and then we write here the remainder. Okay, we control S it, we save it, and we go back, we try to run our script. Here you can see that it says expression syntax error, and it has given an error because Expr doesn't recognize the static sign, so we have to add a slash for it in order to recognize it. So we'll write here slash hello script. Now you can see that it has given the same results added as it was giving with the previous method. Okay, so these were the arithmetic operations that we have performed. We have seen that how we can add variables, how we can actually subtract, multiply, divide, and how we can have the remainder as well. Okay, so now basically we will convert the hexadecimal number to a decimal number. Okay, so what we can do is that we can take the hexa number as an input, okay, from the user. So we'll write here echo enter hex number of your choice. Okay, so once you have done that, so now what you got to do, you have to read the hex number. Okay, so you write here hex, and then you move forward, then you echo here, like echo, and then you write here the decimal value of hex, which is a variable here, right? Hex is, okay, and then we come to the next line and we echo it. Okay, now we are gonna use basically O base and I base with the BC calculator, okay, which is in bash. So we're gonna write here O base equals 10, which is for decimal number, and then we're gonna write here I base equals 16, which is for hexadecimal number, okay, which is for hex number. And then we are basically going to write here hex, okay, the variable, and then we're gonna write here pipe, and then we're gonna write here BC because we want it to be the BC calculator. Okay, so basically BC calculator is being used to perform this conversion, and certainly there are other ways, but I find it the easiest. Okay, so now we control S it, we go here. So now we are going to run our script, and if we run our script, it says enter hex number of your choice. We write here FFFFF, and you can see that basically it has converted the hex value to the decimal value. The decimal value of FFF is 65,535. Okay, so that's how basically you convert the hex number into the decimal number. Okay, so the next topic is declare command. Okay, so the idea is that the bash, it doesn't have a strong type system. Okay, so you cannot actually restrict the variables in bash. However, to allow type-like behavior, it uses attributes that can set by a command, and that command is essentially called as declare. Okay, so declare is a bash built-in command that allows you to update attributes applied to variables within the scope of your shell. Alright, so in addition, it can be used to declare a variable in longhand, and it allows you to peek into the variables as well. So now let's see how we can actually work with it. So if we actually talk about the terminal, so let me just go to desktop first. Okay, so if I write here declare -p, it will show me all kinds of variables that are present here. Okay, inside the shell, it will show all variables of the system. So the idea is that you can actually create your own variables using declare commands. And first of all, we're going to try it out in the shell and in the terminal essentially, and then we're going to write down a script and we're going to declare a variable using this declare command inside the script. Okay, so if I do something like this, declare space -p, if I press enter, you can see that there are all sorts of variables here. So now if I do something like this, declare let's say my variable, and if I hit enter and if I do something like this, declare -p, then you can see that it has basically created a variable name as declare my variable. Okay, so what else I can do? I can give this variable a value as well. So if I do something like this, declare my variable equals, let's say 22. So if I hit enter, and if I go back and if I try to run, let me just clear it first quickly, and if I write here declare -p, then you can see that basically my variable has now the value 22. So now let's try to change it. So if we write here declare, and then we write here my variable equals, and then let's say 11, we hit enter, and now let's try to check if it has changed. So you can see the variable, the value has changed, but we can also create read-only variables as well. So this variable was not read-only, so it was not restricted, but we can create read-only variables as well. So how would we do that? So for that, let's go ahead and let's create a script, and let's write here code, and let's see if we can declare a variable which we can restrict. Okay, so -r is for read only, so we'd write here, let's say pwd file, password file. Let's say we put in the path of the password file in this variable, let's say pwd file, or I think password, yes. Okay, so then we come to the next line, and then we basically simply echo it. Okay, we echo the variable pwd file, we come to the next line, and in here we try to make a change. Let's say, first of all, let me save it, and let's go ahead and let's try to run it, and let's see what happens. So if we hit enter, you can see that /etc/password has been printed out because of this. Okay, so now let's try to change it. Okay, so we write here declare, or not declare, just we write here pwd file, and then we write here equals, and then we write here /etc/ let's say we create a text file abc.text, so if we save it, if we go back, if we try to run our script again, you can see that it says pwd file is a read-only variable. So if we echo here again, you can see that let me save it, we run our script, you can see that basically it is printing out twice /etc/password. So why is that? Because the pwd file, this variable is, we have declared it as a read variable, read only. Okay, so now we try to change it here, but it doesn't change, it gives us an error, and then when we print it out again, it again prints out this value. Okay, so this value has not changed. Alright, so I hope you have got the point. So that's how you work with the declare command. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is arrays. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's try to run a script. First of all, we'd try to write a script, and then we would try to run the script, and in that script we'd see that how we can actually declare an array and how we can play with it. Alright, so let's get started. So let's create an array of cars. Okay, so let's say the first car as BMW, the second car let's say Toyota, and the third car let's say Honda. Okay, so remember that this is the syntax of creating an array. So you got to have like these spaces inside each value, and you got to have these brackets around those values. Okay, so you can add as many values as you want. I would like to add 3, and then let's go ahead and let's try to print all of these values out. So let's see how we can do that. So there is a very simple way of doing it. Then we'd write here, after $, we'd write here the curly braces, and inside of those curly braces we'd write the variable name of array, which is essentially char, and at the rate, this sign basically, you know, prints out all of the array. So we'd go ahead, we'd write here the script name, which is essentially hello, and we hit enter, and you can see that basically we have all these 3 values printed out, right? So now there are other functionalities that you can perform as well. Basically, you understand that how to declare an array, you understand how to print all the values. So there is another way that you can actually print out the values by index as well. So for example, the first value of an array is always stored on 0th index, the second one is always stored on the first index, and the third one is always stored on the second index. So the array is always the array basically, it always starts from 0. Okay, so 0 1 2. So let's say I want to access this value, so I have to mention the index as 0. Okay, here. So now only BMW will be printed out. So let's go ahead and let's try to run our script. So you can see that only BMW has been printed out. Okay, so if you want to print out Toyota, so you have to just, you know, change the index. So you go ahead, you run your script. Let me do that again. So you can see that basically Toyota has been printed out here. Okay, so there is another thing that you can do, and that is basically you can, let's see what happens with this command. I was actually you know, working with it. So we put an exclamation mark here, and we save it, we go back, and it will basically it will show you the indexes. Yes, so 0 1 2, so these are the present indexes in this array. So for example, if I enter another value, like let's say, you know, rover, so if I save it and if I run my script again, you can see that the index has been increased from here and the value has been displayed here as well. Okay, so the next thing that I would like to show you is that how many values are in there. So if you want to calculate that, so you would just simply, you just have to write here hash. Okay, and you're good to go. So you save it, you go back, you try to run your script, and you can see that it tells you that how many values are actually in there in this array, 1 2 3 4. All right, so these kind of stuff, you know, these kind of things, these kind of tricks are valuable and very important when you're actually dealing with, you know, arrays which have hundreds of values inside. Okay, so then once you have done that, there are other things that you can do as well. So for example, if you don't like any value, you want to delete that. So for example, Honda, so I want to delete that. So first of all, I need to determine that on which index this value resides, right? So, you know, I know that 0 1 2, so the second index, right? Actually the third index, but with respect to the numbering, it's 2. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna write here unset, I'm gonna write here the variable name, and then I'm gonna write inside of that the index, which is essentially 2. So after doing that, I'm gonna save it, and when I'm going to run my script, Honda is nowhere to be found. So you can see that the index, the 2, has been removed as well, and the value, the values, total number of values have been decreased as well. Okay, so in the similar way, let's say I want to add that value back. So there are you know, 2 ways. Either I can, you know, just simply remove this unset, or let's say I want to add another value, I want to replace this Honda sort of thing. So for that, what I would do, actually after this unset, I can set the value of the array by writing here just simply car 2, and then I would write here the value, let's say the new value Mercedes. Okay, so I save it, I go ahead and I try to run my script, and you can see that basically the values have got back to 4, and we have got Mercedes in place of Honda on the second index, and it shows us the number 2 index as well here, okay, which is actually third. So I hope you have got the point. So that's it from the array variable. So now let's go back and let's see what is our next topic. So the next topic is related to functions. Okay, so let's go back and let's try to run functions now. Okay, so the way to write the function is something like this. So you write here function, and then you write the function name, whatever it is, and then you write here brackets, and then you basically create the body of the function inside which you will write code. Okay, so let's say I just write here a simple echo command. Let's say echo this is new function. Okay, so the way to call this function, so first of all, in order to make this function work, you have to call this function. So the idea is that in programming, when you're working, you might have a lot of code, like for example this line of code, and let's say you have 60 lines of code, let's say, and you have a total number of program, the total number of lines in the program, that is 10,000, and there is some specific piece of code which consists of 60 lines, and it has been used in those 10,000 lines, let's say 5 times. Okay, so now you don't have to copy and paste those 60 lines over and over again for 5 times. You don't need to do that. What would you do? That you would paste those 60 lines inside this function here, and wherever you need to use those 60 lines, you are not going to paste those 60 lines again. What you're gonna do, you're just going to call the function. Okay, so like here I'm gonna call this function, and let's save it. So first of all, let me show you what happens if we don't call the function. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna run my script, and you can see nothing happens. Okay, because I haven't called the function. So if I call the function now here, if I call the function here, like let's say function name, I save it, I run my script again, and you can see that it says this is new function, right? So now what you can do is that you can actually write different kind of functions. So for example, you can write functions with arguments. So let's say this, I call this function, let's say function print. Okay, and I echo in here, let's say $1. Okay, so I want to take the argument. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna write here function print, and then I'm gonna give it the argument. Okay, so argument could be, let's say, hi. Okay, so now I've saved it, and if I go back, if I try to run my script, you can see that it says hi, right? Because I've given the argument, I have passed the I have asked for the argument, and I have passed the argument, and it has basically printed out the argument. Okay, so another thing that you can do, that you can actually pass multiple arguments as well. So for example, I write here $2, $3, $4. Okay, so I say here, I pass argument, hi, this is Linux hint. Okay, so I save it, I go back here, I try to run my script, and you can see that it has basically printed out, hi, this is Linux hint. So that's how basically you pass an argument. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to show you is that how you can actually check whether the thing is working or not, so the function is actually working or not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a function here, and we'll see that if that function basically returns our value or not. So we'd write here, let's call this function check, okay, and we just write here, let's say returning value equals, and we say using function right now, okay, and then we echo this value inside this function, okay, echo, and then we basically write here returning value. Alright, so we save it. So we come here and we basically try to call the function, okay, function check. So we save it and we go ahead, we try to run our script, and you can see that it says using function right now. So you can say that this is the local variable that we have created and we have printed it out inside the function, and then we have called the function, okay. So using this thing, you can do another thing. So let's say that we don't print out this value right now here, and let's change the value to, let's say, I love Linux, okay, and then let's say I create another variable here returning value, and in here I write here I love Mac, okay. So what happens is that now if I echo the returning value, let me just copy this variable, okay, so I don't make any spell mistake. So if I echo it right here, now you can see that you can tell that it would print out basically this value, I love Mac. But if I call my function, which is essentially function check, and then I echo the same variable, like the returning value, the result would be different, okay. So let's see how it would work. So we'd save it, we go back to our script, let me clear that, we try to run it, and you can see that first it prints out I love Mac, and then it prints out I love Linux. So the idea is that we have local function, this is a local function, the local variable which is inside the function, and this variable stores the value I love Linux. Then we create another variable. So basically the idea is that you cannot access this variable outside this function, because this is a local variable and it can only be accessed inside the function body, right? So when you create another variable returning value, it doesn't mind and it let you create another variable, okay, and you change the value, you give it I love Mac. So basically it prints out this one, I love Mac here. But when you call the function, now when you're calling the function, now we have got returning value as I love Linux, okay. So basically what happens is that this returning value has been updated right here, okay, because of the calling of the function. And then when you echo it, you get this I love Linux, okay. So you can see that here we have I love Mac, and then here we have I love Linux. Alright, so I hope you have got the point. So that was about functions. So our next topic is about files and directories. Okay, so we would go back to our hello script.sh, and in the topics of files and directories, what we would do that first of all we would learn how to create directories, and then we'd see that how to check if that directory, the current directory, exists or not. And then we'd check how to create a file, then we check how to check a file if that file exists or not, and we'll also see that how we can append text to the file, how we can read from the file line by line, and finally we'd see how can we actually delete the file as well. Okay, so let's get started with this thing. So first of all, let's create, we all know that if you are familiar with the command line, in order to create directory you have to do something like mkdir, and then basically you have to create a folder, write a folder name, okay, folder like this, okay, or I write here directory 2, okay. So what would happen when you would create it, and if you execute this command twice, it would give you an error. So in order to avoid that error, in order to recreate the same directory, or in order to eat up the error, in order to have that thing in the place, we write this flag -p. So we'd write here Control S, and then we'd go to our terminal, and we'd clear it. So now we would try to run our script, which is hello script. We hit enter, and you can see that directory 2 has been created. Okay, so now if we want to check that if the directory exists or not, for that we have to write a formal script. So we'd write here echo, and first of all, let's say we write here enter directory name to check. Okay, so then we'd basically read it, and we'd write here direct. So let's say direct is the variable which would basically store the name of the directory. Okay, and then we'd write here if, and then obviously we'd write here the brackets, and inside here we'd write a -d flag, which basically represents the checking of the file. It will basically help us check the file, the directory, if the directory exists or not. So we'd write here the variable name, and the variable name will contain the directory name whichever the user would enter. Okay, so whichever name the user would enter, it would be stored in the variable named as direct. And then we'd write here then we'd write here echo statement, which would say something like this, directory exists. Okay, and if it doesn't exist, if this statement is not true, then we'd echo that directory does not exist. Okay, simple as that. Then we write here fi, which would basically simply end this if statement. Okay, so now if we save it, we go ahead, we try to run our script, we'd get something like this: enter directory name to check. So first of all, we'd enter a name that actually doesn't exist. So we'd write here, let's say JKL. So we hit enter, and it says JKL doesn't exist. Okay, and that is true. Then again, we'd run our script. After running our script, what we would do, we'd enter the name of the directory which does exist. So we'd write here, let's say new folder. So you can see that it says new folder exists. So if we do that, the same thing for directory 2, you can see that it says directory 2 exists. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So that's how basically you check if the directory exists or not. So the next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to create a file. Okay, so we are going to write a script that will help us create a file. So we'll just simply keep the code here. We'll write here echo enter the file name to create. Okay, and after writing that, we'll change the variable name. Let's say we write here file name. Okay, and then we come to the next line, and now what we do, we write here a touch command. So touch command basically helps us create the file. So we write here file name, and obviously I think we have to give a $sign here as well, and then we save it. We'd go back to our terminal, we try to run our script. So first of all, notice down here that we have only handful of files and folders here. So if we run our script now and we enter a file name, let's say I enter here Linux, so you can see that basically this is the file Linux that have been created, and it's on my desktop. So now what I can do is that I can also check if this file exists or not, right? So for that, what we can do is that we can actually bring back that if statement, I think that we had. Yes, and we can write here enter file name to check. Okay, and here we can have the variable named as file name, and then we can here we can have the -f flag, which basically represents the file. Okay, it works in the cases of file only. So -d was for directory. So here we'd write here the file name, which is file name, and then we'd write here that file name exists. Basically the variable, whatever the file name is, it exists. And if somehow this statement is not true, it's false, then what we would do is that we would write here file name doesn't exist. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So we press Ctrl S, we'd save it, would come here, would run our script, we hit enter, it says enter file name to check. So first of all, I intentionally am going to put a wrong file name, so it says JEO doesn't exist. Okay, so again I'm gonna run my script, and now I'm going to put my file name, and I'm gonna write here Linux, and you can see that it says Linux exists. So we can try it out for other files as well that we have on our here. So for example, if I say like file1.txt, so let's see what happens. It says file1.txt exists. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So the next thing that we want to do is that we want to append the text into the file. So appending means essentially that you're basically adding the text, excuse me, inside the file, and whatever text is already in there, it's not actually going to replace it, it's not going to remove it, it's going to add ahead of it. Okay, so we'd see how we can do it. Okay, so we'd go ahead, first of all, we would basically enter the file name in which you want to append. Okay, in which you want to append. So first of all, obviously we're going to check if the file exists or not, because if a user somehow enters a wrong file name, obviously then we cannot append into it, right? So file has to be there. So we'd check the file, and now in here, instead of echo, what we would do, we would write here, in fact we need echo, we'd write here enter the text that you want to append. Okay, then we'd write here read, and then we'd write here file text. Okay, let's name this variable as file text, and then what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write here an echo statement, and then we're gonna write here the variable file text, and then now notice it that I'm gonna put double angle brackets here because I want to append in the file. Okay, I want to append into the file, and in case if I want to replace the text which is already there, I want to remove it, and I want to put in this new file, I just have to this new text, excuse me, I just have to just write this thing once. Okay, the angle bracket, but now I write here twice because I want to append. I don't want the previous text to be removed. Okay, otherwise obviously if that file doesn't exist, then this message is right. So we save it. So first of all, we're gonna put in the wrong file name intentionally, so @jk, it says @jk doesn't exist. We're again gonna run our program or script, and then we're gonna type in the file name. So let's say I want to append in this file, and this file is basically empty right now. Okay, so we'd write here Linux, the file name. It says, it basically, let me go ahead, it says enter the text that you want to append. So I'd write here this is the Linux file from Linux hint. Okay, so I hit enter, and if I go back here, I check it, you can see that this is the Linux file from Linux hint. That's the text that is inside the file. So now if I would run the script again, and if I would do the same thing, now it would not actually replace or remove that, it would actually add into it. So if I write here, hi, this is the second time I am appending. Okay, so if I hit enter, and if I go back here, you can see that basically it has basically appended the text into the same file. Okay, it has not removed it or replaced it. However, if I just go here and if I just simply remove this one angle bracket, and if I save it, and if I go back and if I try to run my script again, and I am not appending, if I add that, if I hit enter, and if I go back to Linux, now you can see that basically those two lines are gone. Okay, so now what it has done, it has replaced it. Alright, so remember that in order to append, basically you just have to put these double angle brackets. Okay, I hope you've got the point. So now we would basically see that how we can actually read the file line by line as well. Okay, so let's go ahead. This is the So I'm gonna add a few of the lines. So let's say this is Linux, this is Linux hint. Okay, so I save it, and what I'm gonna do that I'm just going to make a few changes in this script. Okay, so I want to read this file line by line. Okay, so I write here enter file name from which you want to read. Okay, so from which you want to read. Alright, so then what I would do is that I would go here and I'd write here read file name, and then after that I would go here and obviously I want to keep it because I want to check the file. If the file exists, then I want to read line by line, right? So what I would do, I would come here, and from here I would start writing the code. Okay, so I'd remove these 3 lines and I would write here a while block, while, and I'd write here ifs equals and then I'd write here read -r, and then I'd write here line. Alright, then I'd write here do, and I'll echo it, the line obviously that I am reading, and then basically done. Okay, so now the while loop has finished here. So one thing to remember, that this statement is while read -r, which is a reading flag, and line. So this ifs here, we have used it for dealing with white spaces. Okay, so you can also write it like this. So basically it is having what? Just an empty string, right? So you can do that this way, or you can just simply remove. It would assume that it has an empty string. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So you know, everything is fine. So hit Control S, and one thing that I'm forgetting is that I want to give here the file name, right? Because from that file I'm going to read, and on that file I'm going to implement this while loop, right? So I write here the file name. So now if you have noticed that previously when we were appending or replacing the text in the file, the direction of this angle bracket, it was exactly opposite, right? Because in that case we were basically adding into the file. Okay, so now basically you can see that the angle bracket is towards the file, so it means basically we are reading from the file. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So now we'd save it and we'd go ahead and we try to run our script. So first of all, I put in the wrong file name. It says doesn't exist, so I'm gonna clear it. I run my script again, and now I'm gonna write here file name from which I want to read. Okay, so I would write here Linux. I hit enter and you can see that it is basically reading right from the file. Okay, so you can see. Alright, so now finally we could see that how we can actually delete the file. It's very simple. So obviously first of all the file has to exist, right? So we'd write here simply rm, and then we'd write here file name, actually the variable name, and obviously if we put in the wrong file name, it won't delete it. Okay, so like this, it says doesn't exist. Obviously you can add the line that it doesn't exist and it can't be deleted, obviously. Okay, so I'd go here and I'd type in the file name, which is Linux. I hit enter and you can see, boom, the file has been deleted. What you can do is that you can echo here as well, echo file has been deleted successfully. Okay, so you save it, and now let me go ahead and let me try to delete this file one.txt. Okay, we don't have anything inside that. So yes, we save it, we go back and we try to run our script. Okay, and you know, we type in the file name, which is file1.txt. We hit enter and you can see that file has been removed and it says file has been deleted successfully. Okay, so I hope you have got the point, and now let's move on to the next topic, which is essentially, I think we already have it opened here. Yes, so the next topic is sending an email via script. Okay, so the next topic is sending email via script. So there are several methods to send an email via script, but we're gonna follow a very simple one. So first of all, what you've got to do is in order to work with emails, what you've got to do, you have to install first of all sudo apt install smtp. Okay, you hit enter and you install this. Okay, I already have it, so it has taken less time, but when you'd install it for the first time, it would probably take longer. Okay, so the second step that you've got to do is that you have to edit a file. We can also say the configuration file, but before that you have to go to your Google account. So I have created this testing Google account, and what you've got to do, you've got to go to the Google account here. Now after coming on this page, you have to click on this security tab and you have to come down, and from here you have to turn the access on. Okay, so I already have turned the access on, so you have to allow less secure apps and you have to turn it on. Okay, so by default it would be off like this, but you have to turn it on. Okay, make sure that this sign is blue. So once you have done that, now what you've got to do is that you have to go back to your terminal, and in here you have to actually open up your file /etc/ssmtp/ssmtp.conf. okay, you hit enter, you open this file. Okay, and now what you're going to do is that you're going to edit it. So I'm going to write here root equals, here you're going to write your email. In my case it's testingemail430@gmail.com. okay, so make sure whenever you're allowing access to less secure apps, make sure that is some account that you really don't care about. Okay, otherwise if in case that account is important and you have some important information in it, then I don't recommend trying it on that. Okay, then you write here mail hub, and then you write here smtp.google or gmail.com, and then you write here colon and then the TLS port number, which is 587. In case of SSL it is 465, and then you write here authenticated user, which is gonna be obviously the username, which is testing email 430, like the email that I have created. And then obviously you're gonna write here authentication password, which I'm not gonna write here right now. Okay, because it is not in dots, so it is in literal words. Okay, so I'm gonna write down that later. Then we're gonna write here use start TLS is equal to yes. Okay, so that's all you have to do. So now I'm gonna write here my password and I'm gonna save this file and close it. So after saving this file, what you've got to do is that you have to come here, and now you can actually edit your script and you can run. Okay, let me open that too. So now there are basically two fundamental ways. Either you can actually create a text file in which you structure your email and you basically redirect your command to that file, or there is another way that is simpler. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write here ssmtp, and then I'm gonna write here the email address, okay, which is this one, and simple as that. Okay, so I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna run my script. So when you run your script, you would see something like this. So in here you can actually structure your email, first of all to the person that you're sending an email to. So you're gonna write here the email address. So for example, in my case, this is the email address that I want to send to. Then I'm gonna have from, obviously I'm sending an email, I'm sending an email to myself. Okay, then I can have CC, and let's say I CC myself again 430@gmail.com. then we can have here subject test, okay, and then we have body. This is body, okay. So after that you press Ctrl D and you come out of it. In Ctrl D we would go back to our browser and we would see that the email has arrived, okay. So here you can see that this is the email that I have sent to myself. If I go to send, you can see here it exists as well, and in the inbox it exists as well. So that's how you basically send yourself an email using SSMTP. Not sending yourself essentially, but you can send to other people as well. But I'll recommend that you use your extra account for these kind of activities because it's way too dangerous, and that's why Google does not recommend that as well. So certainly there are other ways to send emails as well, like using send email, mail, mailx as well. You can go ahead and check out that ways as well. So our next topic is curl, okay, the curl in script. So if you have been working with the command, then you must be familiar with this, and if you want to know more about it, then you can just go and on your terminal write down man curl, or I think curl -help as well. These things would work, and you'd be able to see that how many things that you can do with this command. So basically today in this topic what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna write here a simple curl, and we'll try to download something, okay. So write here URL, and we'll write here URL equals, and inside these double quotes I'm gonna write a URL. So I'm gonna go to my browser and I'm gonna write here test download file. I'm gonna hit enter, and obviously it would show us that how many like test files that you can download. So let me just click on them. I think this would work for us. So let me just download this small file, which is, I think it's 1 MB, I guess. So I copy the link, okay. I think this one is a 1 MB, it is smaller than that. So I'm just gonna put in the URL, and I'm just gonna save it, save the script, and I'd go back to my terminal and I'd try to basically run the script, okay. So I'd write here hello.script.sh, and you can see that it says, it gives us some sort of warning because probably we are not doing it right, okay. So because we are doing it through script, it is showing some sort of problem. So rather what we are gonna do is that we are going to make a few changes. We are just gonna simply write here angle bracket, and then we're gonna write here the file name, okay, that file name that we want to give it. So we'd write here, let's say, let me download it first as it is, okay. So first of all, if we do that, if we put here -o, then it would inherit the file name, the actual file name, okay. So if we Control S it, we go to our terminal and we try to run our script. So you can see that it has started to download, and this is the original file name, okay. So basically it has inherited that file name, okay, 1mio.dat, okay. So it is like 44% it's been done, and obviously total it's almost 1024K, so it's around 1 MB, okay. So it has downloaded that file, and you can see that it has inherited the name, the original name of the file, which is 1mio file, okay. So that is the original name that it has taken it from the website, and website obviously they would have stored it in their database. So in their database the name of the file is this 1mio.dat. So what I'm gonna do now, let's try to change the file name, okay. So let's write here curl, not here actually, I think inside here, yes. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write here negative O. All right, and obviously negative O stands for options, save as options, and then we're gonna write here the name of the file that we want to give. So let's give it like new file download or DW. Okay, so we save it, we go ahead and we try to run our script again. Excuse me for that. So we try to run our script again, and you can see that it has started to download. So once it would download, you can see that basically it has changed the file name here. Okay, so curl command is basically used to download different stuff. So what you can do is that you can also check if the file has the right data, right? So for that, what you would do, you would just simply check the header, and then you can decide if you have to download this file or not. So we'd get into that, but first I think in order to do the same thing, there is another way. We'd write here an angle bracket this way, and then we'd write here the file name. Let's say we write here output file. Okay, so we save it and we go ahead and we try to run the script again, and you can see that basically it has started to download it, and this would be now our output file, but it would be actually in here on our desktop. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. This is how basically you can do such stuff. And now what we're going to do is that we're going to take a look at the headers. So header, as I have mentioned, that you can check headers, the data that is coming from headers. You don't have to necessarily download all the files, okay, or complete file to know if that file is okay or not, or if that file is correct or not. You can just download the header, a small amount of the file, and you can know that if that file is right. Obviously you are not going to download 10 gigabytes of the file to know that if that file is right or wrong, because that is gonna waste a lot of your time. So in order to save your time, this is the trick. Okay, so we'd write here curl, and URL obviously would keep it the same, but before that we'd write negative or hyphen, and then we'd write here capital I. Okay, so now we'd save it. So that is very simple. So we'll clear it, and now we'd write here the name of our script. We hit enter, and you can see that this is the information of the file that we would get, which will help us to make a decision if we have to download this file or not. So you can see that HTTP 1.1 200 OK. Obviously if you're familiar with the networking, this is a message that this thing is okay with the networking. You can download it or you can work with it. Then we've got the date, then we've got the server, last modified. Obviously this is the information that could be very helpful. The accept ranges, the content length, the connection, and the content type. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So this is how you basically get the information about the file. This is the header of the file, and based on that you can make the decision if you have to download the file or not. So the next topic that we're going to discuss is professional menu. All right, so professional menus, in this topic we are going to study select loop, how to work with it, and we're also going to discuss that how you can actually wait for the input. Okay, so that is also possible. We'll see that how we can actually work with these two things. We've done a few examples. So without a further ado, let's go ahead and let's do that as well. So now we'll just remove it. So what we're gonna do is that we're going to write here a select loop, and in that select loop, I'm obsessed with cars, so I'm gonna write here the car company names: BMW, Mercedes, Tesla, Rover, Range Rover, and then let's say Toyota. So you can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 car companies name, and I write here do. And the good thing about select loop is that it gives you options, okay, automatically. So what you've got to do is that you have to select one option, and when you select that option, what's going to happen that it is automatically going to print out that option in this variable. It is going to actually store that option in this variable, and then obviously using this variable you can print it out. Okay, so I'm gonna write here echo, and I'm gonna write here you have selected $sign and then car, the variable name, and then I write here done. So all done, and we go back and we try to run our script. Okay, and you can see that it says some sort of error, select car. I think after car I have to write here in. Yes, I forgot that. So we save it. So these little mistakes, you know, everybody could make it, so no big deal. So after writing after improving the mistake, we run our script again, and you can see that we have 5 options. So from these 5 options we can select any of the options. So let's say I select 2. Let me just, by mistake I pressed some other key, so I press 2. So you can see that it says you have selected Mercedes. 1, it says you have selected BMW. 3, it says you have selected Tesla. 4, Rover. 5, you have selected Toyota. So one thing, if you have noticed, that other than 5, if I select any other option, let's say I press D, it says you have selected. Okay, so the car variable is basically empty, right? So there are basically fundamentally different ways to do that, but what we do, you can write if statement and you can put a check on that, but we can actually create a switch statement right inside the select loop, and we can actually make it happen, right? So let's say in the switch statement we've got something called as default statement. Okay, so in that default statement we could say error. Okay, put the right number. All right, so right now we'd go here case, and then we'd write here the variable name, which is essentially car, and then we write here in the keyword, and then we'd write here BMW, our first option, and then we'll echo it, right? With echo, let me just echo it. So echo BMW selected. All right, double colons. Then we come here and then we write here the next car name, which is essentially Mercedes, and we write here echo Mercedes selected. Okay, and then you put double colons. Then you come here and then you write here Tesla. Let me just basically copy it and just edit it. So I copy it, I come here and I press here Tesla. I change it to Tesla basically. Okay, and then I change that as well quickly, Tesla. I come here, I paste it again, I change that first to Rover, and then I change that to Rover as well. Excuse me. So so I would write here Toyota, and then obviously would write here echo Toyota selected, and then finally would write here a default statement by using steric. Okay, as we have learned previously as well when we were discussing case statements. So we're gonna echo here error, please select between 1 to 5. Okay, so that's how you basically do it. And in order to end the case statement, what you're gonna do, you're gonna write here esac. Okay, so basically that's how you do it. So now you'd see a different thing. So when go ahead and when we will run our script, you can see that it has like 1 2 3 4 5 options. So if I press 2, it says Mercedes selected. If I press 3, it says Tesla selected. But if I press any other key, let's say N, I hit enter and it says error, please select between 1 to 5. And if I select 8, it says error, it says the same thing. So I have to select a number which is between 1 and 5, okay, including 1 and 5. So let's say I select 5, it says Toyota selected. Okay, so it goes on and on and on. So now let's discuss another example in which we wait for the input, like for any key. Okay, so you can use it as like in professional menus as well, differently. It depends upon you. So So I'm just gonna teach you. So we'd write here echo, and then we'd write here press any key to continue. So basically what would happen is that in this program, in this script, we are just going to wait for the user to press a key. Until then we're going to give him remainders. Okay, so we will keep him so we're going to wait for the user to press any key. Until then we're gonna give him or her reminders. Okay, so we'd write here, let's say, a while loop, and we're gonna write here true. If the while loop is true, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write here read. Remember here that we're gonna write here t. T basically stands for seconds. So right after every 3 seconds, it is going to print out a statement. Okay, the else block. Let me show you what's gonna happen. So we're gonna write here if, and after that, after writing if statement, we're gonna write here question mark equals 0. If that happens, if that condition is true, then what you do is that you basically exit. Okay, and before exit, let me just echo it here. You have terminated the script. Okay, so otherwise I write here else block, and in else echo I say waiting for you to press the key, sir. Okay, so once the user presses the key, it presses the key, and what happens is that basically the script stops running. Otherwise it would keep on running, and it would keep on giving this reminder here, waiting for you to press the key, sir, and it would give this reminder after every 3 seconds, and it would basically print it out just once. Okay, so after that obviously we need to end the while loop as well. So we control S, we save it, we go back here and we try to run our script. So you can see that it says press any key to continue, but after every 3 seconds it is printing it out, waiting for you to press the key, sir, waiting for you to press the key, sir, waiting for you to press the key, sir. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna press any key on my keyboard. Let's say I press, any key. So it says you have terminated the script. Okay, so basically that's how you work with it. So I have pressed Y, so that Y is here, it is showing up. So you can see that it says you have basically terminated the script. Okay, so that's how you basically wait for the input. You wait for the user to give you the input, and then you can perform any action. So I have performed what? I have printed out this thing, and I have exited the script. You can do anything else, whatever you want to do here. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So let's move on to the next topic. So wait for file system events with inotify. So we're gonna discuss inotify in this topic, and what we're gonna do is that we're gonna wait for the files, and we're gonna make changes in the file. And before using inotify, obviously you have to install it. So first of all, inotify is basically inode notify. Okay, so the I here, it represents inode, and notify is like notify. Okay, it is a Linux kernel subsystem that basically acts to extend file systems, to notice changes to the file system applications, and it replaces an earlier facility which was denotify, I think, and it had similar goals. Okay, so whatever changes that you're gonna make to your directories or files, inotify is going to tell you that these are the changes that have been made in your certain files and directories. Okay, so that's how we're gonna use. You can also say that basically it is, we can use inotify to monitor the files and directories as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's start. Let's see what we can do with inotify. So first of all, obviously you have to install it. So in order to install, you have to write something like sudo apt install, and then you're gonna write here inotify tool. So there are plenty of things that you can install with inotify, but we want to install particularly inotify tools. So we'd hit enter. It would ask us, do you want to continue? So obviously we'd press yes, and it would start working on it, and it would start downloading it, and it would start installing it. All right, so it would take some time. So once it downloads and it installs in our system, then we'd run a few scripts, and then we'd see that what we can do. So now you can see that it is installed in our system. So let me just clear it. So now we'd go back and we'd try to write our script. Okay, so before we write our script, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm just going to use inotify first of all on just an imaginary directory. So let's say there is a temporary directory that actually doesn't exist on our system right now on our desktop. So let's see how inotify responds to that. So let's write here inotify and -m or -m, and then I'm gonna write here /temp and then /new folder, let's say, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So we control save it, we save it, and then let's go to here, and then let's try to run our script. So you can see that it says inotify command not found. Okay, so I think we need to write here inotify wait. Yes, I forgot to write here inotify wait. We save it, and then we go back, we try to run our script. You can see that it says setting up watches, couldn't watch /temp/new folder, no such file or directory exist. Okay, so there is no file or directory, okay, something like that. So what I'm gonna do is that basically I'm going to create such a file and directory. So I'm gonna write here mkdir, and then I'm gonna write here -p, and then I'm gonna write here, I told you that why we write -p, then we write here /temp, then we write here /new folder. So once you have written this script, and after that what you're gonna do is that you're going to press Ctrl S, and then basically you're gonna go here and you're gonna run your script, and you know, you'd see that basically the directory has been created, and the watches have been set to basically monitor your directories and files. So right now we have created this one. This is the temporary folder, and there is a new folder inside of it, or directories, and you can see that we have set up an inotify wait command, which is basically waiting and waiting and waiting for you know, changes in these files. So for example, if I open it, you can see that on the terminal it has given up the message that the directory has been opened, right? So if I again click it, and if I go back here, you can see that it has given a message that that directory was opened. So what you can do is that you can write another script. So go ahead, this is your homework. Go ahead and create another second script, and then you would do that. You would run that script in the second terminal, and you would see that, you know, those changes. And obviously in that script, in the second script, and obviously in that second script, you're gonna make changes in this directory, create another file, you know, print out something inside that file, and then let's see that how these changes are made. So we can create a file here. Actually, that would be highly unprofessional, because let's not do that. Let's create a file using command line or using a script. So I'm just gonna do it quickly in the command in the terminal. So what you can do is that you can actually create another script and try to run that script in another new terminal. Okay, so I'm opening up a new terminal, and I'm just quickly gonna create the new file so that you can see the changes that we are making. Okay, so we go here, let me see the other terminal. I think we just have one terminal. Yes, here we have. So what we do is that we basically, you know, now you can basically see that what are the changes that have been made. Okay, so I do something like this. I'll create this one a little bigger. And here, now if I try to create a file, let's say I create touch file1.txt, you can do that inside the second script and run that script here. Okay, that doesn't really make a difference. So you can see that it, basically tells us that you have created the file. Okay, and let's say that I want to add something to this file. So what I would do is that, I'd write here, let's say, so let's say that I want to add something inside the file. So let's say I echo here, this is Linux hint, and then I go ahead and I just paste that thing inside the file one. Okay, so if I hit enter, you can see that it tells us that the file has been modified. Okay, it has been opened and it has been modified. Alright, so it basically gives every bit of the information about this file. So now if let's say I go ahead and I open it, you can see that here we have the text, but if I go back to the terminal, you can see that it also has shown us that we have basically made opened up the file. Okay, you can see that we have opened the file, we have accessed it. So that's how basically you can actually monitor your files and directories using inotify. So certainly there are thousand, I think, if not thousand, I'm exaggerating, maybe nearly hundreds of commands that you can perform in 100 different ways. So you can always consult man pages for that. So go ahead, check out man pages and see that what else you can do with inotify and perform some of the commands. So practice is very important. So it's like kinesthetic learning. So if you do that, you get ahead of the curve. Okay, so must try it. Alright, so now let's go ahead and let's move on to the next topic, I think, which is, let me see that here. So our next topic is introduction to grep. So in this topic, we try to do an example and we'll see that what we can actually do with this grep command. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's go back to our script, which is hello script, I guess. Yes. So what we're gonna do is that we are going to create a script that will actually search from some file. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to create another file. So let's create a text file here. Let's go back to terminal and let's create a file here, touch file file grep.txt. So we create it, and oops, I have closed the terminal, but don't worry, we'll open it. So inside here we write something like this is Linux, this is Windows, and this is Mac. Okay, so basically these are the 3 lines that we have written, and now what we can do is that we can just simply copy paste them. Okay, so we save it, and now what we're gonna do that we're going to search inside this file using grep command. Alright, so we open this up and we go to our desktop because that's where our script resides, and we go to our script. I think we need to open our script again. So in here we remove this and we write a program. So let's say we ask user to enter the input, the file name. So we write here echo enter file name to search text from. Okay, so then we read it and we say as file name, and then we go ahead, we write an if condition, and in this if condition we are going to check if the file exists or not, and that is something that we have done already as well. We use f flag, and then we write here the variable name, which is essentially file name, and then after that we write here then we write here echo, and then we write here file exists. In fact, we don't need to write that. We would write here the code to receive the obviously the text that user want to search, okay, the word or something like that. So then we write here else, and then in here we're gonna write echo file doesn't exist. In the case if file does not exist, in that case I'm gonna write here file doesn't exist. Okay, then I'm gonna end the if condition, of course. So now in here I'm gonna echo enter the text to search. Okay, and once I've done that, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna store it in a variable named as, let's say, grep variable. And once I've done it, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use some simple grep commands. I'm gonna use grep to actually perform the functionality. So let's say in the file, let's say I enter the file name as, let's say, file grep.txt, and in this file I want to search for Linux, let's say. Okay, so I write here Linux, and then I write here the file name, which is file grep.txt. In fact, I write here the file variable, which is file dev. Instead of writing Linux here, we'd write here the variable name, let's say grep var. Okay, so we save it, we go ahead, press Ctrl C, come out of the program, the script, and then again we run our script, and it says enter file name, so we write here file grep.txt, we hit enter, it says enter the text to search, we write here Linux. So now you can see that it has not shown any result because it is not capital, so it is taking it as case sensitive. Okay, so what we want to do is that we can actually write here a flag -i to remove the case sensitivity. Okay, so I press Ctrl S, I go back, I try to run my script, and I enter the file name, which is essentially file grep.txt. It says enter the text, so I write here Linux now, and you can see that it has displayed all the lines which have this thing. This is Linux. Okay, so it has matched the Linux, and it has displayed all the lines that contain the word Linux. Okay, so there is another thing that we can do, is that we can use the line numbers as well. So for that we type here -n. So we go back, we try to run our script, and file name, which is essentially file grep.txt, hit enter, it says the word that you want to search, which is essentially Linux, let's say. So you can see that it gives us the output, and it tells us that on these lines, the Linux exists. Okay, so first is number 1 line, then we have number 4 line, number 7, number 10, number 13, 16, 19, and 22. Okay, so in the same way you can search for Mac as well, or Windows as well. So let's say we want to search for Mac, so you can see that on these lines we have Mac. Okay, I hope you've got the point. So let me clear it. So now there is another thing that you can do is and that is actually you can use the -c flag or -c flag, and let's see what that flag does. Okay, so file grep.txt, enter the text, let's say I add Windows, and you can see, okay, I have not added -c here. Okay, -c, we save it, we come here, we run our script again, and we write here the file name, which is essentially file grep.txt, hit enter, we write here Windows. You can see that because of that C flag, it has told us that basically Windows this word occurs 8 times in our file. Okay, so -c basically gives you the number of times the word has basically existed in the file. Another thing that you can do is that you can use the -v flag as well. So let's see what this flag does. So if we go back, we try to run our script, and we write here the file name, which is essentially file grep.text, and hit enter. We write here the word Windows. You can see that basically it has given us 16. So now what this 16 is representing, let's in order to make it clear, what we're gonna do, that we're gonna remove this -c and -n flag. We're gonna save it. We're gonna come back and we're gonna run here our script again. File grep.text Windows. Now you can see that basically it is showing all the lines which are without that Windows word. Okay, so with that thing, when we were having -i and -n and -c, in that case the -v was showing the number of lines which did not contain their word Windows. Okay, so the number was 16. Okay, 8 lines have Windows, and we figured it out by using the flag C, -c, and the number of lines that do not contain the word Windows are 16, and we figured it out using the flag -v. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. So that's how basically you can use grep. You can use your own regular expressions that you want to. I think we have a regular expression video on our channel as well, so go ahead and watch that. We'd put the link of that video in the description or in the I button. So there are plenty of things that you can do with the grep command. So in order to check that out, what you can do is that you can go man grep. Okay, so you can go to the man pages, and you can see that there are a lot of options for grep, and you can learn a lot of options, you can practice them, and you can see that what are those results that you have got. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. So our next topic is introduction to AWK. So the AWK command, basically it is a scripting language which is used for manipulating data and generating reports. So today in this topic, what we're going to do is that we're going to run this command inside our bash scripting file. But the idea is that AWK scripting is a whole different topic, and there are, it has its own different files with the extension of .awk, as we have like in the case of bash, we have the files with the extension .sh. And in case of AWK scripting, we have the files as .awk. However, it can also be used in the bash scripting, and that's what we're going to do, that we're going to use this AWK in the case of bash scripting. So the AWK command, basically you can say that it is a programming language, and it requires no compiling, and it allows other users to use variables, numeric functions, string functions, and logical operators as well. Okay, so AWK, basically you can say it is a utility, and it enables a programmer to write tiny but effective programs in the form of statements, and those statements basically define text patterns that are to be searched, or that are to be searched in the document, and the action that is to be taken when match is found within that file. Okay, so you can say that what can we do with awk? So basically 3 things. Number 1, that you can scan a file by line. Okay, number 2, you can basically split each input line into different fields, and we're gonna see that how can we do that. Basically we do that by $1, $2, $3. $1 stands for field number 1, $2 stands for field number 2, so on and so forth. So there is a fourth additional operation that you can perform, and that is basically you can perform actions on matched lines. Okay, so another question that you could ask is, what is this useful for? That is a very valid question. So the idea is that basically AWK, it transforms data files, and it also produces formatted reports. If we talk about programming constructs, it gives you a formatted output. It gives you the ability to perform arithmetic and string operations, and it gives you the ability to use conditional statements and loops as well. So now let's go ahead and let's try to do some sort of example. So we go to our script, hello script, and here we try to run a few things, okay, our bash script. So let's just go ahead and let's remove this, and what we can do is that we can basically print a file using AWK. So how do we do that? So first of all, let me just use the previous program. So I would write here, enter file name to print from AWK. Okay, so in here, the real thing that we're gonna perform is in here. So in here we write AWK, and then we write single quotes, and inside these single quotes we print. Okay, so whatever operation, whatever functionality you're gonna perform inside these single quotes. Then we're gonna write here the file name, which is essentially the variable file name. Okay, so that's it. So we save it, and we go ahead to our terminal and we try to run our script. So we hit enter, and it says enter file name to print from AWK. So let's say I write here let's say file grep dot text. So I hit enter, and you can see that it has printed out all of the things. Okay, so do not confuse yourself with the name file grep. It's just a name. Okay, so it doesn't make it a grep file, alright, necessarily. So let me change the name so that you don't get confused. So I'll name it as, let's say, AWK file. Okay, so now what we can do, we can also basically print the lines which contain the word, basically a specific word. Okay, so what we can do is that we can actually take another input, or you can simply just go here and you can write // and inside of this / you can write here, let's say we write Linux. So now what this program is going to do, it is going to print out, or it is going to display all the lines in the file which contain this word, which is essentially Linux. Okay, so inside our script, inside the hello script, we're gonna write here, let's say we write here Windows. Okay, so we save it and we go ahead and we try to run our script. Basically, I think we have closed our terminal by mistake. So we go to our desktop and we run our script. It says enter file name to print from AWK. So we write here the file name, which is AWK file.text. Hit enter, and you can see that basically it has printed out the lines only containing Windows. Okay, look at that. So there is another thing that you can do. You can actually the thing that I was talking about, $1, $2, you can actually print out specific fields. Okay, so let's say let me just go ahead and let's remove all of the lines from here and just keep the 3 lines, and we add another 4th field as well. So let's say we write here, this is Linux 2000, this is Windows, this is Windows 3000, and this is Mac 4000. Okay, now let me just copy and paste it, and let me save it. So now let's go ahead and let's try to do that. So if we go ahead and if we try to write here print, and then we write here, let's say $2, it would print out the second field. Okay, and we go to our terminal and we try to run our script, and it says enter the file name. We write here awkfile.text, hit enter, and you can see that basically it has printed out is. Okay, so basically it has a search for windows, the line which contains windows, and from that line it has basically printed out only this one is. Okay, so if you want to print out the fourth field, then you'd write here $4. Okay, so we go ahead in the program and we write here, instead of $2, we can write here $4. If we save it, we go back and we try to run our script, enter file name, which is awkfile.text. We hit enter, and you can see that it is printing out the number. Okay, the fourth field that we have here, which is this one. Okay, and it is displaying it for all windows. So there is another thing that you can do, and that is basically you can go here. Let me just go inside the file. Okay, I think it's opened already. Alright, so you can actually print out 2 fields or 3 fields simultaneously as well. So for example, if I want to print out the field 1 or the field 3, let me just change it to, let's say, Linux. Okay, so if I save this, and if I go ahead and if I try to run my script, awkfile.text, you can see that basically it is printing out Linux 2000, Linux 2000, Linux 2000. Okay, so that's how basically you roll. Okay, that's how you're gonna work with the awk command. So we have seen some basic use of it. Maybe we're going to create an advanced course on it in the future. You can basically create separate files for awk in which you can write it using begin and end clauses, and you can also go to terminal and you can basically check the man pages of awk for further instructions. So I think that's it from this topic. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is introduction to sed. So sed basically stands for a stream editor, and you can use it to manipulate text files and substituting purposes as well. So the idea is that it can be used in a lot of different ways with a lot of complex files. We're going to see a very basic use of it in this course. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to let me just close this file, and let's go to our script and let's see how we can actually run it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that we're gonna keep the program, the script same. Let's just do a little bit change here, enter file name to let's say substitute. Let's say we try to substitute first. So enter file name to print or enter file name to substitute using sed. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is that first of all let's go ahead and let's see what is in our file. So let me change the name of this file, sed file. Okay, so we hit enter and we go inside this file, and you can see that this file contains all of that stuff. Okay, so what we can do is that we can go back. Let me just close this file as well. So we can go back here, and we can actually start making changes using pipes. Okay, So let's say we write here cat, and then we write here the file name, which is essentially setFile.txt, and then we write here a pipe sign. Okay, and then after that we write here sed, which is a sed command that we're gonna use, and then we put double quotes, and then we write here forward slash, and obviously then we're gonna write here in the beginning, we're gonna write here s, which represent the substitution, and then we're gonna write here, let's say if we go back to this file, let's say we want to substitute I, and we want to replace it with capital I, okay, here as well. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write here inside the script small I, because this is the one which already exists, and then we're gonna write here capital I, okay, because this is the thing that we want to replace, okay, and we're gonna write here we're gonna control save it, and we're gonna go back and we'll try to run our script, and let's see what happens. So it says enter file name to substitute using sed, so we write here sed file.text, and we hit enter, and basically you can see it has changed. Actually, I'm gonna make the size of the file smaller so that you can actually view this thing very clearly. So I'm gonna control save it, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna run my script again so that you can see the change very clearly. So we write here, and we put in the file name, which is setFile.txt. We hit enter, and you can see that basically our program has worked, our script has worked. So if we go back to our script, we wanted to replace small I with the capital I. So what has happened is that this small letter I, the first one, has been replaced with capital I, okay, but you can see the second one and the third ones, they are like the same. So in order to do that, if you want to replace all of the I's, what you have to do is that you have to go back to your script, and you just have to write here G, okay, which stands for global. Another thing that you would notice that you know, using pipe is just a convention, so even if you don't use it, it would still work, okay. So normally I don't use it, but it's just a convention. So we're gonna write here the file name, which is file name, okay, and we save it, and then what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go back and we're gonna run it. So now notice that we have added G, which stands for global, and now it is going to replace all the I's in the file with the capital I. So we run our script, and we give in the file name, which is setFile.txt, and you can see it has replaced all the I's with the capital I's. I hope you have got the point. So what you can do is, now if you notice that these are the changes which have not been made inside the file, okay, so if you open up your file, you can see that all these letters are small, right? So this change has not been made inside the file, rather it is just simply an output, okay. So what you can do is that you can also make changes to the file, you can modify the file, but what usually I do, that when you know I'm working with the complex files, or even when you are working with the complex file, what you have got to do is that it is good that if you create the backup. So you can do, what you can do is that you can just simply go to your script, hello script.sh, and just simply write here any other file name, create a new file.txt. So what's gonna happen, that basically it is going to copy this thing into that new file. If I run my script again, and if I write here setFile.txt, and you can see that now it has not given any output. What it has done, it has created a new file, and in this file we have redirected the output, and this file contains the output. So now you can say that what if I want to modify the file which is already there? So you can do that in two fundamental ways. You can redirect the file, redirect this thing directly to the file as well, or what you can do is that you can go here and you can use a flag, and that would be -i. So make sure that when you do this thing -i, you really want to do it, because it is going to modify your file forever and there is no going back. You cannot undo that. Okay, so after doing it, what you're gonna have that new thing that you're trying to have. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to save it and let's try to run it, and let's see what happens. So it says enter file name to substitute using sed. So we enter here the file name, which is essentially sed file.text. We hit enter, and you can see that it has not given any output. What has happened that if we go back to that file, and you can see that changes have been made, alright, in that sed file as well. So there is another thing that you can do, and that is basically you can replace whole words as well. So right now what we have done, we have replaced, I think we have replaced only one single alphabet. So you can replace complete words even. So let's say we want to replace Linux with, let's say, Unix. Okay, so if we save it and if we go back and if we try to run our script, let's see what happens. So enter file name, so we write here sed file.text, we hit enter, and if we now go back to our sed file, you can see that it has not replaced it because the I is capital. Okay, so make sure that you take care of the case sensitivity, or you use any flag which actually take care of the sensitivity as well. So we write here Linux, okay, this way. So we save it, we go ahead, we try to run our script, the file name, which is sed file.text, we hit enter, and if we reload, you can see that Linux has been replaced with Unix. Okay, you can replace the whole strings. So let's say I want to replace 2000, and you want to replace it with 8000. Let's say we save it, we try to run our script again, sed file.text, and now if we go to our sed file, reload, you can see that 8000 has been replaced by 2000 has been replaced by 8000. Okay, so I hope you've got the point. You have learned this sed command. For further things you can learn, you can man it, you can see what are those things, what are other things that you can do with sed as well. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is essentially debugging a bash script. So the idea is that bash offers an extensive debugging facility, so you can actually debug your bash script, and if something doesn't go according to the plan, then you can actually take a look at it, and you know that this is the thing which is happening. So right now we have this hello script. So let's say that we intentionally create some sort of like error. So if we remove the space, everybody knows that obviously it is going to give some sort of error, right? So we run our script and we give some name, let's say sed file.text. That was the program that we were running before, right? So you can see that it has given an error, right? So right now it is pretty clear that where the error is, that we know the error is in the if block, right, on the line 6. But in some cases, when you are having long scripts like 1000 line or 2000 line scripts, then most of the time it is hard to identify if there are multiple errors. Okay, So for that, what you can do, you can debug your script and you can know that what's happening on each and every step. Okay, so there are basically three fundamental ways in which you can debug your script. So the first way is that you basically run your script like this. In fact, before running your script, let me just clear it first. Before running your script, you write here bash, then you write here -x, and then you write here the script name. Okay, so now what this bash -x is gonna do, it is going to debug your script. So we hit enter, and you can see that basically it is showing step by step that which are those steps which are being executed. So the first step which has been executed is this one, the echo command, and then the step which has been executed is the read command. Okay, so now we write here the name, which is essentially set file.text. So you can see that it shows that this line has been executed and this line has been executed. Okay, so it basically shows you step by step which lines are being executed. So let's say if we would have a for loop here, then it would be showing like the iterations of the for loop. Like this is the first iteration, it would be showing the number, and then it would be showing the code that has been executed inside the for loop. Then it would be showing the second iteration with number 2, and then it would be showing the same code that is being executed, right? So that's how it shows you step-by-step procedure. So there is another way to do the same thing. You can basically put -x here, and now your script will debug as well. So let's say we go ahead and we just try to simply run our script, and you can see that our script is debugging in the same way, right? So we write here set file.text, and you can see that it is giving us the same results, and it is telling us that which lines are being executed. Okay, so there is a third and final way. You can basically select that from what point to what point you want your script to run. Okay, so for example, let's say I want my script to start debugging here, and I want my script to, let's say, stop debugging here. So the idea is that from the point where you're starting, you have to put set -x there, and at specific point where you want to stop, you have to put set +x. Okay, I hope you have got the point. So that's how you debug your script from one point to another point. So let's go ahead and let's save it, and let's see what happens now. So if we run our script like this, you can see that it has debugged first 2 lines, and let's see what happens next. So if we put in the file name, which is set file.text, we hit enter, and you can see that basically it has not shown anything like this. It has shown +x, set +x. Okay, so it means that basically the debugging ends here. So debugging was starting from here, and it ends here. Okay, so it would print out set +x as well. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. That's how basically you debug a bash script. So these are the 3 fundamental different ways to debugging a script. They are quite. You can also go on and you can now also test this debugging on other programs, other scripts as well. For example, in the case of while loops and for loops, it would work the same. Okay, so I hope you have learned something new in this course. I hope you have really enjoyed it. If you want us to create another course on a similar topic or some other topic, then tell us in the comments below. If you have any questions regarding this video, or if you want to add anything in this video, then comment as well and let us know. If you like the video, gives it a thumbs up. For written articles, you can visit our website linuxin.com. And until next time, I will see you.